Welcome to Health Coach for Women. Intentional living for more happiness and fulfillment in your everyday life with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. Join Marsha as she shares her own personal wellness journey, as well as stories from our guests that will enlighten and inspire you to move towards better health and happiness. Now, here's your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Health Coach for Women, a podcast where we explore alternative and holistic solutions for better health and wellness. And I am your host, Marsha. Now, before we get started, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and be sure to like this podcast at the end of the episode and share it as well. Thank you so much. Okay, so today, today's topic is finances, right? And so I want to talk about that. Some people may not look at that as part of your wellness, but it definitely is. It is a part of your wellness, okay? Because when people are in financial turmoil, they're in stress mode, they're suffer from anxiety and things like that. So that is important. That is why I'm having this topic today on financial wellness. So let me start out with a quote, which is, it's a simple quote. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's the quote. Okay. I don't know who made it, but that's the quote. All right. So here we go. All right. So now you've heard about the recent bank closings, right? Of Silicon Valley Bank closing and the other bank, Signature Bank closing. And so during this time, you're hearing topics about I've been hearing this for a long time, that we're headed into a recession, and that there'll be some people, experts are even saying there'll be more to come and things like that. But let me just share a little bit information with you, right? And so how it works, right? And I'm not an expert on this, but I did spend some time in finances, working in finances. So how it works is with the Signature Silicon Valley Bank, right? They invested the monies in bonds. And so if you're not aware, when people invest their monies in banks, there's a certain percentage that is allowed where the bankers, they can then invest that money into other things to make more money. Okay. And so with certain banks, this is one thing that you need to know. You need to know whatever bank that you choose, so you need to make sure that it's federally insured. And so to make a long story short with that was, I guess, as they got the wind of, customers got wind of Silicon Valley Bank and not having the funds to pay people. Of course, it created a frenzy and people began to pull their money out, which was what caused the banks to close its doors. Now, I want you to, before I go any further, I want you to go ahead and to listen to this and check this out.
In the global capital of tech, their bank of choice goes low tech to announce it's all over, sticky taped to the door. The California regulator's press release, Silicon Valley Bank closed. The federal regulator now acting as receiver.
They just came out and told us that the bank is shut down.
SVB, as it's known, had assets above $300 billion. On the ladder of largest US banks, number 16, the biggest American bank meltdown since Washington Mutual collapsed in the global financial.
So that is what people were afraid of and started pulling their money out, right? But there are some things that we need to know, right? So what are some of the things that we need to know to help protect us, right, as consumers? And so when I made the quote about not putting all your eggs in one basket, it's basically simply just that, not putting all your eggs in one basket, by spreading out your money. And like I mentioned before, you should always make sure that your whatever financial institution that you choose, to make sure that it is federally insured. And I want to explain, I don't want to go off too much on it, but just to give you a little bit of how it works, the Federal Reserve, as the rates increase, which is what's happening now, these bonds that the bank invested in, they begin to decrease. So the more that the Federal Reserve increase their rates, the more that the treasury bonds, these bonds that they invested in, will decrease. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. I don't want to get too confusing and, go all off into that. But we need to make sure that we are protected, right, as the consumer. So we do remember the time of the government shutdown, right? And for those who worked in government, that people who worked in government was not able to access their money, right? And I'm not sure if it affected city workers. I'm not too sure, but I know for the government workers, they had problems accessing their money. And I also heard of another person who was not able to, and they were not a government employee, and they were not able to access their money. And so this can be a frightening experience for anyone. Not being able to access your own money is just, insane. And that most people, many people, live paycheck to paycheck. The majority of working people live paycheck to paycheck. So, I've talked about this in the past before, about things you can do. And also, again, that I have that in the book as well, about budgeting and managing your money and things that you can do, right? And so it is important to build a savings account, a savings fund, right? And so that's important. You want to start out by having at least they say, experts recommend at least 3 to 6 months of savings, when we know that can be hard for some people. And so instead of maybe spending your income tax on different things, just shopping and things like that, maybe you want to use that time to probably invest in that and invest into saving it, right? For some type of emergency, to put aside rather for some type of unexpected emergency. And again, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket, right? Because of the perfect example, you had the Silicon Valley Bank that collapsed, as well as another bank, Signature Bank, which collapsed after that. And let me just play a clip on that. And check this out.
The first concern was people who had money in these banks, small businesses who had money in there and needed to pay employees. The president saying that is safe. But what happened here is also raising some questions about whether any other banks are vulnerable and how to prevent this from happening again.
Americans can have confidence that the banking system is safe.
President Biden today looking to reassure Americans about their money in the bank and the markets that control the fate of their 401ks after the failure of 2 banks.
Markets are by and large, at least at this point, have been calm because they came out and took some very, very swift action. Had they not done that, it was going to be a pretty ugly week for us in the markets.
Rob Wilson is a financial advisor.
People think back to 2008 and what happened then. How should we view this? Is there a possibility we could be seeing more of this?
I think the situation that we're seeing today is markedly different than what we were facing in 2008.
Wilson says unlike that period when banks had bad mortgages on their books, this time Silicon Valley Bank invested in bonds impacted by rising interest rates.
They got into a little bit of a, let's say, timing situation where they had these long duration assets that come due in 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years, but they needed cash today because people were taking their money out.
The question now, whether the interest rates pushed higher by the Fed to combat inflation we've seen from groceries to gas could take a turn. Wilson says this could be a tipping point.
A lot of people were saying, look, the Fed is going to continue raising rates aggressively until they break something because they're trying to fight inflation. Well, they broke something this past weekend.
What comes next, also up to Washington.
We must get the full accounting of what happened and why those responsible can be held accountable.
The president looking for Congress and regulators to strengthen rules so it doesn't happen again. Meanwhile, Wilson says you can take some actions to protect your finances.
You should never have all of your cash in one bank. You never know if you could be a victim of identity theft, if the policies at the bank change for one reason or another and you don't have access to your funds. So you want to be diversified in what you invest in, but you also want to be diversified at where you're banking as well.
There you have it. So, I mean, this guy here, he just made it very clear to diversify where you put your money, right? Diversify where you put your money. So you don't have to have all your money going into one bank. And you may or may not know, you can do direct deposit and have your funds go to 2 separate accounts. You can split your money also. It may be a little, time consuming as far as and a little, extra step that you would have to go to do that. But you can, just like if you were to take out money, like if you wanted to put your money into 401, how they draft money out, you can do that as well and put it into another account. You can do that. You can look into your HR or whatever personnel and see how they can help you with that. But the interesting thing is now I bring this topic up to talk about this, not for people to be in fear about any upcoming crisis, financial crisis. I'm not saying that it's, basically what they're saying. Again, some are saying that it's going to happen. We're headed towards another recession, and some are saying that may not happen. But you have to pay attention to the cycles, right? Everything does happen in cycles. And remember back in 2008, the big banks and everything that crashed and everything. This was a really, really rough time for those businesses and people, right? The average person, the average consumer, and people losing their money, their savings. So it's important to this is just to prepare you, right? And to prepare you is what you should be doing is making sure that you are aware of your money and where it's going, where you keep it, and how you can protect your assets, right? And diversifying your money, keeping it either in different banking institutions or credit unions, whatever that you choose to keep it in, and also investing in other things as like real estate. But I don't talk about the topic of, which is good as far as like the investing and trading and things like that. I know nothing much about those things, so I really can't talk on those things. But as far as real estate will always be an asset and always be a tangible asset. And what happened with a lot of these hedge funds and even Chase now, what I'm hearing, what I've also heard, that they are buying properties. They are buying rental properties. And why? Why are they doing that? Why are they buying rental properties? These hedge funds and banks, they're in case of a crisis, in times of a crisis, they have tangible assets that can increase in value. And because what do people need most? They need a place to live, right? So they always need a place to live. And that's where rental and having real estate assets will always be a valuable asset. Okay, so that is something that you may want to consider, not knowing your situation. It's, plan ahead, right? Plan ahead, start looking at different ways how you can leverage your money and make your money work for you rather than you working for it, right? Start finding ways that you can leverage your money and diversify your money, right? And they talk about, one of the clips, they talk about gold, right? Gold being an asset and things like that. Oh boy, that brings me to another topic of how this whole banking situation and everything started, but I won't get into that. and because it'll just take me somewhere else, down another rabbit hole, right? On what they had people do, and had people trade in all their gold, their true assets, right? Their true gold and money, and gave them paper money, right? Which has no real value whatsoever. But that's a whole new topic. That's a whole different topic. But anyway, so you want to do that. You want to look into being and making sure you know what's coming in and out of your account, of your different accounts or your one account. You need to track and manage your money, right? You need to track and manage your money. And you want to make sure that there is definitely more coming in than going out, right? And so you don't want to be negative each month. And if you find yourself, and that's why people don't like to talk about budgeting and money and things like that, because it's not something that they really want to face and talk about. But you have to be realistic, and you have to look at the truth for what it is, right? Maybe you're someone who has an excellent budget, and you have a certain amount of money that you have extra each month. Maybe you can take that and put into savings, or plan for your vacation, whatever it is that you choose to do, right? So what's important is having something stored away in case of a rainy day, in case where you may not be able to access your money, right? You want to always be able to have something where you have access to your funds and it's readily available. You don't have to go through the bank, or if somebody wants to freeze your account for whatever reason, you want to have some assets available on hand. That's important. And so with finances, right, when it comes to finances, one of the things that I did research with as far as anxiety is that finances was one of the main reasons of anxiety, because people are always worrying about their finances, right? And worrying about tomorrow, right? Worrying about how they're going to pay the bill, because you're living in survival mode, right? Many people are living in survival mode, worrying about how they're going to make ends meet, how they're going to make things make ends meet as far as being able to pay their bills, right? And so you can't worry about those things. All you can do is to prepare and take steps. Go over your budget, go over your monthly budget, and write down all your bills, all of your expenses, what you spend on eating out, all of these things, and look at what you can eliminate that you can put away and save, right? Look at what you can eliminate and have extra money. And I talked about it before about refinancing your vehicle, right? Or maybe even refinancing your home if you're a homeowner, right? And you can get money back and have your note lower, right? Getting your car, and instead of your car not being $500, now you can reduce it down to maybe $300 or $400, something like that. We want to find ways that we can have more and stress less. We don't want to stress, but we want to live more and stress less. So that is the key. That is the key on what this topic is, or what I'm talking about today on this episode here. So financial wellness is important, and it is a way to support your overall well-being, in addition to other things. So when we look at holistic health, we look at, the emotional, right? We look at the physical, mental, spiritual, right? These are all part of what makes us the whole, right? And so therefore you have that holistic health, dealing with the whole individual, the whole person. And financial wellness does come into play in that aspect as well. Because as I mentioned before, when you're in financial crisis, right? Everything becomes this whirlwind, this crazy tornado, because you're worrying and you're stressing over how you're going to make it. And because, again, being in that survival mode, we do need to learn to operate more out of love rather than fear, right? And so I talked about that as well. I'm always talking about a lot of different things, by the way. So, but it's so important that we are able to take control of our finances. We're able to take control of our own life, right? Our own life, our health, and our well-being. And so with knowing where we are financially, we can reduce the stress, right? We can reduce the stress and the mental health issues that comes along with that, right? Such as anxiety and things like that, depression. And so money is not the end of the solution, right? It's not an end all. It's not the ultimate thing, right? But when we are in control of our finances, when we are in control of what we do and how we spend our money and where we put our money, we are in control in that aspect. We are in control. And again, it's important to remember to diversify your accounts and to be sure that it is federally insured, and to don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And so I think that is about all I have for today. I pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. This is not to have people in fear, worrying about what's going to happen for the future and, how can I prevent it? No, it's just to make you aware, to be aware of what's going on, right? And to also to plan ahead, right? And to plan ahead and to be prepared. And so if you haven't started saving yet, it's okay. It's not too late. Just go ahead and start saving, right? If you haven't went over your budget yet, it's okay. Go ahead and go over your monthly budget and see how you can save. And then whatever you can save, you'll be surprised of what you actually end up saving once you really take a real look at your finances and do a budget of what you can actually save. Now, if you're in a negative, you need to see what you can do to make extra money, or what things that you can eliminate to bring you back in the clear, so you're not in a negative. Okay. And if you have a skill set, maybe you want to look into a side hustle, right? That is not a bad thing. Doing a side hustle on something that you enjoy and something that will help you and make you the extra funds that you need. All right. Stay healthy, stay well, stay blessed, and bye for now. Until next time.
Thank you so much for listening to Health Coach for Women with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time.